Hey friends, it's Michelle from Little Farm in the Valley. I'm down here in the canning pantry and everything is still pretty well stocked except for this one shelf, which normally is like the whole shelf is filled with chicken broth, and we are getting really, really low on chicken broth. Dangerously low. Just 2 jars left and it goes so fast. I want to say the 50 jars we had lasted us maybe 2.5 months.
We have eat all this jar.
You ate it all, yep. You eat soup a lot.
Yeah, and I will be big and go to Leonard.
Yep. So anyway, the plan is to restock this shelf and fill it once again with chicken broth. So everything else, like I said, is still looking pretty well stocked. It is just that chicken broth that tends to really fly off the shelves. Actually, another thing that is going down fast is the ketchup and the diced tomatoes, which I didn't even make diced tomatoes this year. So they'll definitely be finished by the time we have tomatoes in the garden. Anyway, so today is chicken broth day. So it's evening and I have all my big stock pots. I have my 4 big pots out and I am going to start prepping for my chicken soup. So I've got all my jars up here too, and I have a big bag of chicken bones and carcasses. Now some of these are raw and some of these are just from when you like roast a chicken and then you take off most of the meat, and instead of discarding the carcass you can still make soup with it. And then like I said, there's some raw ones in here. There's some backbones for when you like make a butterfly chicken, you take the backbone out. That can be saved for soup. So kind of a little bit of a mishmash of everything in here. I did manage to remember to put it out of the freezer, so it should be thawed, and it shouldn't be too difficult to divide it among my 4 pots. I'm thinking I'll need 4 pots for all of this, so we'll see. So the reason I'm actually doing this in the evening is because it gives my chicken broth extra time to simmer on the stove. And my plan is kind of to have the 2 smaller pots in here in the house. And then if I have 2 more big pots, I'm gonna do the big pots in the garage tomorrow morning. So I'll have 2 pots that are simmering all night. And then in the garage we have a propane burner that's really fast. So I'm thinking if we start that first thing in the morning, it should still be plenty of time for those 2 pots. So we'll have the 2 pots that are in here on the stove overnight, ready to can in the morning. And since it takes so long to pressure can, I think it's not going to be a problem having to wait for the 2 pots in the garage, because we'll be busy cleaning up and canning for the 2 pots that we're going all night. So that's the plan right now. So I have my chicken, I'm gonna fill it with water, and then I'm gonna add a garlic clove. These are kind of smallish. Our garlic didn't do super well this year. And have a whole onion. I'm actually gonna cut this in half or so. I still have to prep my carrots and my beets tonight, but for now this is what I have ready. I'll just start with what I have. And then I do celery leaves. I actually have some carrots. I'll just use all these carrots. So I can get one pot started. I have some fresh cracked peppercorns. And if I can open my bag of bay leaves. So I'll be adding this to every pot. And then to this one, I'll still add some beets. I like to add beets for color. I just haven't ran downstairs for beets yet. I thought I'd have everything ready, but it didn't go as planned. Last time I did soup broth, I did a whole cup in all of my pots, and it was way too much, so we're cutting it back to a 1/3 cup of salt. I have one more ingredient, if I can find it. I like to add a splash of apple cider vinegar, which helps the bones break down. So this is one of my smaller pots. And then this one. Once I have it ready, once I have them ready, I keep these really big pots in the basement, so I thought it was a good idea to rinse them out. Looks like this stuff is still pretty frozen. I actually thought it would be pretty thawed by now, but it's been here in the sink all day. It looks like the raw carcasses are what's really frozen. So I have to work a little bit at prying these apart. So these are just chickens that we butchered, and we skinned them, and we took off the breasts and the thighs, so we were left with just the carcass, which is excellent for soup, but that's still frozen. So good thing I am waiting for tomorrow morning to do the next 2 pots. I'll just fry off enough for this pot and deal with the rest in the morning. Definitely should be more thawed by tomorrow morning. It's like 7 p.m. right now, so in 12 hours I should be able to work with this. I just would like to get at least one more in this pot. Even though at the end, when we're straining off the broth and stuff, I pretty much mix all the soup together. So if one pot, is a little bit weaker, not as much bones, it all gets mixed together anyway. So I think it's fine. I hear a baby waking up, so I'll hurry here. Just throw in my onion, a couple bay leaves. I guess this will have to wait for later before I turn it on for carrots and beets. Pepper and my salt and apple cider vinegar. I probably will turn them on even before I put in carrots and beets, just because it'll take a while for it to start cooking and heat up. So I actually have these 2 pots on high, and once they start boiling, which this one is starting, I will turn them down on low and let them simmer for the rest of the night. So during the night, I will get up a couple times and just make sure everything's going like it should. This will evaporate a little bit during the night. It'll go down, so I'll have a quart jar in the sink to top it off with water during the night if I feel like I need to. This one isn't quite boiling yet, so I'll leave it on high for another couple minutes. You don't really want your bone broth to be cooking on high heat, because that's why your broth will turn a white color sometimes. If it just simmers, it should be a nice golden color. So I finally had some time to get my beets and my carrots. That's a monster beet right there. I think this pot already has carrots. That looked like a serpent's tail going under there. So we'll do a beet in here and a couple carrots. That one can be turned down to low now. We do not want it boiling this much. So they're both on low and they'll be simmering. It's 8:12, so they'll be simmering until tomorrow morning. And I'll keep adjusting this during the night as I check to keep it at a simmer. Like if it's not doing anything at low, I just turned it to 1. It's always I'm always kind of adjusting it as I go. There's really no set temperature that seems to work all the way through, I guess. All right, we will see this chicken broth tomorrow. So I actually always just call this chicken soup, but really what is the difference between chicken broth and chicken stock? I was curious, so I've been Googling it. It's been a long day. I am just all over the place with my hair today. Anyway, so the difference between a broth and a stock. What I've been reading is a stock is like more thicker, and if you have more meat on your bones that you're cooking off, that would be a stock. And if you have just like bone or carcass like I have, then it's more of a broth. But to me, mine is kind of both. Because on the carcasses that like were roasted chickens that I just, you know, took off the leftover meat and diced it, I left quite a bit of meat on there. But on these carcasses, there's not much meat. So, and it'll all get mixed together in the end as we're filling the jars. So I guess it's a broth and a stock. So we're just gonna call it chicken soup. It is what it is. I'm not too technical about whether it's a broth or a stock. So anyway, it's been a long day. We got 2 pots going, so we'll worry about the rest tomorrow. So it's early morning, and I'm gonna turn off this pot for sure. See what this one looks like. I might let that one bubble until I'm done dealing with this one, but for now I'll turn that one off. Trying to get my show on the road here. This might not work.
There's a lot of soup.
So I'm starting with straining off one of my pots. I have my cheesecloth here. So I'm just letting the broth run through here. It's a beautiful golden color. Very impressive color. So once I have one pot empty, I'll get the rest of the bones going. I just wanted to get some broth to work with for starters before I take the time to put another pot on. So I'm pouring it all into this big pot. And from here we'll start filling the jars, but for now I need to get another pot going. It's just beautiful. What a beautiful color. Okay, one pot is empty. This is my last pot. Apple cider vinegar. So our plan was to have these two bigger pots on the propane burner, but it didn't quite work out that way because we're cooking a duck for later today for lunch. So that's taking up one of my burners, but once that's soft, I can take it off and finish it by roasting it in the oven. So maybe another hour for the duck. And then we have our pressure canner here where we're canning the first jars that we filled. So once this starts to vent, it's kind of starting now, but it's not steady yet. Once we have a steady vent, we'll start timing that, and need to check for sure, but I think it's 25 minutes at 10 pounds pressure that we pressure can the chicken soup. So we have one batch going, which is very important because it takes so long. It takes time to get it up to pressure, then it has to be at pressure for 25 minutes, and then it takes about a half hour to cool it down and open it. So this is what's gonna take the longest out of the whole process. So hopefully we can get this duck off soon. And then we'll bring one of the bigger pots out here because it'll just cook a lot faster out here on this stove. This is a super handy little thing to have when you do a lot of canning. We absolutely love it. So it's really starting to vent now, so I put my timer on usually and let it vent for 10 minutes before we put our weight on and let the pressure go up.
Yep.
This must be my culture like soy name.
Yep.
So this is the duck that we're gonna have later today. I stuffed the cavity with sauerkraut, surrounded it with some veggies, and I'm gonna roast it in the oven till it's a nice golden brown.
water.
So we finished our last batch at around 7:30. So that was quite a long day of canning. We got 34 of these quarts, and then we got 9 half-gallons. Amazingly, some of this stuff is still warm. Well, this must be the first batch, but these are still warm. And then over here we have a couple more. This was still bubbling a few minutes ago, so this is the last batch. So now we just leave it overnight. And then in the morning, when everything's cooled down, we will see if it's all sealed, and then it goes down into the basement. But for now, the kitchen gets a rest. Well, it's the next morning, and we have all of our jars of soup down here in the basement. Remarkably, most of them sealed. The reason I say remarkably is every single one of the lids we used is actually a lid that we've used before. This is a diced tomato lid. I kind of, when I actually managed to take a lid off without bending it, I just throw it in a drawer, and we used them all up on the chicken soup. I think we had 5 that didn't seal. We did a bunch of half-gallons too, and about, I think I said 34 quarts. So obviously the ones that don't seal you have to keep in the refrigerator. So we have, yeah, about 5 or 6 in here that didn't seal. So thanks for following along on our almost 3-day soup canning marathon. Oh my goodness, it's a lot of work. It can be so tedious at times, but just seeing it all here on the shelves ready to grab and go is so incredibly worth it. So thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this video, as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you never miss a video, and we will talk to you soon.